Hello and welcome to the green portion of the Aetherdrift limited set review. In this video I will be discussing all of the green cards and how good I think they're going to be in limited with a focus around draft. If you haven't been with me for one of these set reviews before, these are the 5 tiers I use. The tiers are meant loosely to correspond with certain, pack card numbers, so where I would take them in a given pack. Tier 1 is the best, Tier 5 is the worst. In between is, in between. And, yeah, if you like any of the limited content like this, feel free to subscribe, stick around. There will be more of it. There are more Aetherdrift set reviews as well. And we're going to start with Afterburner Expert. 2 and a green, 4/2, exhaust, 2 green, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever you activate an exhaust ability, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So I'm low on exhaust as a mechanic because I think, there's just better things to be doing. The max speed stuff doesn't cost you any extra mana and et cetera, and et cetera. But that doesn't mean that all the exhaust cards are bad. And this one gives you a lot of value, especially you play your exhaust creature and bring this back every single time you activate an ability. That's very strong. That's a lot of value for this. There's not a ton of exile removal in the set. There is some, but there's, I would say, less than usual, actually. And this card is going to be impactful throughout the game, right? Like, you can discard it for value, you can whatever. Exhaust abilities don't, you can do them with haste, you can do them the turn the creature enters, unless obviously they need to tap. But usually, most of them don't. Most of them you can just activate immediately. So it sort of helps. Like, you can just get this back. You can be like, okay, well, they kill it, and then on turn 5, you play your 3-drop, and then also just immediately exhaust it and get this back, and it's not tapped. Pretty sick. That's pretty sick, and it's just kind of going to be a lot of value. There's nothing really special about it. It just is kind of a lot of rate for, a lot of flexibility and a lot of rate for this type of card. Agnosaur Rex. Aganosaur Rex. There we go. 3 green for an 8/8 with trample, and cycling for 2 and a green. When you cycle it, put 2+1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature or vehicle. It gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. So this obviously is very good. 3 mana combat tricks, generally not especially great, because 3 mana tends to be opening yourself up to blowouts in a lot of spots that you don't really want to do. But when the combat trick is free and comes with a 5 mana 8/8 trample, I'm not going to complain. It gives indestructible too, which is kind of nice. Kind of a thing that, didn't have to do that, but it does do that, and that makes it a little bit better too. So this just seems like a very strong card. I would be shocked if it's not one of green's better cards. Alacrian Jaguar, 4 and a green for a 4/4 vigilance. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gains +2/+2 until end of turn and saddle 1. I don't really know what this card is supposed to be doing. It's a 5-drop that's kind of small and doesn't really attack well. There's no deck that wants this, so I just don't get why it's in the set, really. It's a mount. The white common mount stuff is they did it better than this. I just don't get it. I don't understand this card. I'm never gonna play this card. Here it is. It's in the set. There it is. It exists. Autarch Mammoth. 4 green for a 5/5. Whenever it enters and whenever it attacks while saddled, create a 3/3 green elephant creature token and saddle for 5. This is great top end, right? Great 6-drop. You're getting 8/8 worth of stats over 2 bodies. This thing threatens to generate value every turn, or even if you just, there's not really anything that's blocking a 5/5 and not at least going trading with it. So it's at least going to get it's a 2-for-1. It's pretty easy for it to be a 3-for-1. It can take over the game. Obviously, it's not tier 1 because it's 6 mana and 6-drops are, you can't play them until turn 6. That's why they are, they take a little bit of a hit. That's why they have to be very strong to be up in tier 2. But this one I think is worthy of it, and I think you're going to be seeing a lot of this guy. Beast Rider Vanguard. 1 and a green for a 2/2. You can has the ability pay 4 and a green, not exhaust, not an exhaust ability. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I kind of wish this were an exhaust ability and it gave it like a +1/+1 counter or something. Like I don't know what we're like. Why are we doing this? This is too expensive. It's not 2025. You know we've adapted. You know a 2-mana 2/2 with this ability just doesn't. It's just simply is not what you want. It's going to be too expensive in most spots to activate, and when you activate it, you're kind of taking a whole turn off to do nothing. And sometimes you just hit a land, and you're like, okay, I've drawn a land, which is good. Drawing a land's good, but paying 5 mana to do this is not a rate that is acceptable. Bestow Greatness, 2 and a green, instant. Target creature gets +4/+4 and gains trample until end of turn. Unfortunately, 3-mana tricks are not very good because they're very susceptible to getting blown out. There's a lot of great removal in this set. Blowout potentials, left, right, and center. Unsummon is a card that exists. That's pretty bad if you have, you're trying to cast this card into an unsummon. I mean, that's not actual unsummon, but you get it. Yeah. Can't cast this card into open blue mana, can't cast this card into open red mana, can't cast this card into open black mana. What can you cast this card into? You can't even really cast it into open white mana. There's just not. There's real. You can cast it into open green mana probably, but that's about it. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's doing anything. Sadly, it's too expensive. Broken Wings, 2 and a green, instant, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. A card that is usually reserved for the sideboard, but I think in this set there will be enough targets that you should be playing at least the first copy in the main, maybe the first 2 copies in the main. It does solve one of green's weaknesses, which is flyers, but it does not solve the cheap flyer weakness. Obviously trading down on mana is bad, and that this does do that sometimes when you're trying to kill a creature with flying. But obviously you're going to be targeting vehicles a lot with this, and I think for that reason it's going to be decent, but not something you're like super thrilled about. You're going to be like, oh man, I got a Broken Wings. Like it's not premium or anything, but I think your average deck's probably going to want 1, maybe 2 of them. Defend the Rider, single green for an instant. You can choose 1 target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Or create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this token saddles mounts and crews vehicles as though it was power were 2 or greater. Interestingly, it doesn't say non-land permanent. So if you're playing like, vintage out here, someone tries to wasteland your forest, get them. You know what I mean? Pretty good. Not super relevant for 2025 limited, but this card's just great, right? You have the ability to make a pilot token. Pilot tokens are going to be very relevant. There's a lot of things for them to do. There's a lot of crewing, a lot of saddling. And also just having a protection spell is great. This is actually going to be a really difficult card to use because you're going to want to do both modes all the time. You're going to be like, oh man, turn 1, make a pilot. And you're going to be like, well, but could use to save it as a protection spell. A lot of things to think about with Defend the Rider, but obviously going to be strong no matter how you use it. District Mascot. Single green for a 0/0. It enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. Has the ability 1 and a green, remove 2 +1/+1 counters from it, destroy target artifact. And whenever this creature attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on it, saddle 1. So it has to attack to get to the second counter, and basically to be able to attack, it has to be in play on turn 1. I mean, I guess that's not necessarily true, right? Like what you can do is turn 1 play this, or let's say it's like turn 4. This thing is in play. It's just a 1/1. You can saddle it, attack, and then sacrifice it before combat damage. Is that great? It's okay. I think it's kind of like weird, I think this is probably not what you want. Obviously, if it can attack on turn 2, like if you play this on 1, crew it on, saddle it on turn 2, get in, and it can start running away with the game. I just think that's probably not going to be like in the games where this is good, it's going to feel very good, but in the games where it's just kind of like nothing, it's probably not going to feel that. It's just going to just kind of be there, and you're going to not notice it. I don't know. I think this is kind of medium. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. There's also plenty of ways to interact with artifacts. It's not like there's like no ways to do it. We've seen Broken Wings. There's another common that does it. The red Scott stuff. Like there's just tons of ways. So I don't think this is like strictly necessary. Dredger's Insight. 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever one or more artifact and/or creature cards leave your graveyard, you gain 1 life. Whenever this enchantment enters mill 4 cards, you may put an artifact, creature, or land card from among the milled cards into your hand. Yeah, so this is just kind of like your standard impulse draw. We've seen a couple of these in the last 6 months. They're pretty good. They're very, you pretty much can play them in any green deck. This one gives you a little extra value over the course of the game in terms of life gain, which is nice. Green probably needs that as not the fastest color ever. And it helps you draw your best cards more often, especially if your best card is a creature or an artifact, which is going to be in this set a lot. So I think this is quite strong. Technically, if you take a land from among the cards, you don't get a life. So be advised, it doesn't always gain you 1 life, but it's going to be gaining you 1 life. I would say, whatever. And then over the course of the game, maybe some other stuff leaves your graveyard. There's a bunch of stuff that does that. Just a good value card. Earth Rumbler. 4 and a green, 7/6. Vehicle with Vigilance and Trample. You can exile an artifact or a creature card from your graveyard. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Look at this. You see this? You see how they interact with each other? Wow, amazing. You can also just crew it for 3. This doesn't excite me all that much. It's kind of big. It's kind of a big vehicle, right? Like 5 mana, 7/6 Trample. That's big. The problem is there's so many artifact destruction spells in the set that this having no ETB or board impact or whatever. I mean, it does have board impact if you have a creature or artifact in your graveyard, so it can block. But you can't do that forever. Like you are going to eventually run out of stuff. I don't think it's like bad per se. Right? You have it in tier 3. That's a perfectly respectable place for a 5-drop to be. I don't think it's a bad card. I just think it's not a high priority for me, and I would be looking to draft it in the middle of the pack as opposed to the earlier part of the pack, and that's sort of why it's here. Elvish Refueler. 2 and a green for a 2/3. During your turn, as long as you haven't activated an exhaust ability this turn, you may activate exhaust abilities as though they haven't been activated, and you can have the exhaust ability 1 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I'm not a believer in exhaust. I'm not a believer in 3-mana 2/3s that require a lot of investment for them to be good. That combination on 1 card doesn't inspire confidence. Obviously, if your opponent doesn't have any removal spells in their deck, it's great. You get so much value, you run away with the game, but that's not a realistic place to be living in the modern age. It's also really bad. Again, like, speed is going to be really important in this format. Like max speed and like getting to max speed and preventing your opponent from getting to max speed. That's what this format is going to be centering around. And this card has nothing to do with that. It doesn't interact with that in any way. It doesn't block. It doesn't attack. It doesn't do anything. It does nothing. It doesn't even work with itself. Like you can't do this turn 4. You can't put 2 counters on this because it doesn't work because you've already activated an exhaust ability. Like you can't get the second one immediately. I understand why they worded it this way, because otherwise it's like there's not really a way. I'm sure they didn't want to word it this way, but this is the cleanest way to kind of get close to what they want, which is like you can activate your exhaust abilities more than once, but we only want you to be able to do that once per turn because otherwise it's too much, which I understand, but it does prevent the interaction of play this, activate exhaust ability, get the 1 free trigger, which would be kind of nice. But yeah, it's not. It's bad. I don't know. I don't like it. Fang Guardian. 3 in a green, 4/2, Ape Druid with Flash. When this creature enters, another target creature or vehicle you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So this is like Briar Pack Alpha? Is that what the card's called? The 3/3 for that has this text with Flash, the 4 mana 3/3 Wolf. That might be what it's called. That card was strong, and this card I expect to also be strong. One of the nice things about this that you can do is, so let's say you have a vehicle in play, and no creatures to crew it. Okay, opponent attacks. Well, I flash this in, crew my vehicle, give it +2/+2, block. That's kind of what this is trying to do most often. There's a lot of stuff with like flash. There's a lot of like flash vehicle blockers in the set. So something to keep in mind is that you got to worry about that basically. Yeah. and that's kind of all I got to say. It's solid, right? Like it blows somebody. It's probably gonna maybe get you, blowout. Maybe you trade with something. It's good on blocks. It also works on attacks. So solid card. Fang Druid Summoner. 3 in a green for a 2/4 with Reach. When this creature enters, you may search your library and/or graveyard for a creature card with no abilities. Reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. So, ta-da! Here's the thing, guys. We did it. This is the card. Like, we put all these cards in the set with no abilities for this specific card to exist, and this is the payoff. Is it good? Yeah, it's fine. It's a fine card. I don't think it's worth putting medium cards in your deck. The best creature with no abilities is the white one, the 2 mana 3/3. The green one, the green ones are kind of okay. The red one is kind of okay. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a lot. I'm like at a loss for words for this card. It doesn't excite me. 4 mana 2/4 draw card with Reach, totally, probably even good. But the card you're drawing is going to be bad. Like it's this card that makes you play bad cards in your deck. So I don't know if that's where I want to be. Green Belt Guardian. 1 in a green 2/2. Has the ability single green. Target creature gains trample until end of turn, and it also has the exhaust ability 3 in a green to put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature. Now that's a threat, right? That's a big threat. 2 mana. This is a 2-drop. And then on turn 4, it's a 5/5. That's big. That is big for a creature to be on turn 4. Having the ability to give something trample until end of turn, sweet. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I got to say. Yeah, it doesn't have any ETBs. It doesn't really, it just trades off in the other game. This card reminds me of the, there's that 2/2 from whatever it's called. It's the 2/2 that has adapt for 6 mana, put 4 counters on it. Looks kind of like that card. That card was kind of unassuming but played really well. This card I think is probably going to be similar. It's a pretty good raid on 4 to make a 5/5, and you had something in play early, and giving something trample is a good way to end the game, right? It's it's not really a threat of activation as so much as like you have to activate it to do the thing, but sometimes you want to activate it to do the thing. Sometimes you want to deal it extra 2 damage, right? When this thing wants to attack, which sometimes happens. It's pretty big. It's relevant throughout the whole game. I quite like it. Is it maybe gonna make me sad when it's not that good? I totally could. It does die to shock. There's a couple of shocks. So that's don't try to blow people out by don't just use the ability. Just use the ability if your opponent's tapped out. Don't try to get creative and leave up mana for it. 3 in a green, Hazard of the Dunes. 3 in a green, 4/4, trample reach, exhaust. 6 in a green, put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature. 6 in a green. It is 7 mana to exhaust. It is 7 mana. I repeat, 7 whole mana to exhaust on this creature. We've had 4 mana 4/4s with reach, and they actually tend to play pretty well. This one has trample too. So I don't know. I think it's going to be fine. I think this is a decent card. I don't think it's spectacular or anything. I don't think it's busted, but I think you're probably going to play this in your green decks, and I think it's a little better than bad. I'm a little more than unhappy to play it, but I'm not happy to play it, and that's where tier 3 kind of comes in. So yeah, I'm not excited about this, but I don't think it's unplayable. Gibberick Omnivore, 1 and a green, 3/2 beast. So here's a creature with no abilities. How good is a 2 mana 3/2? I have rated it as not very good. I should probably bump it. It should probably be tier 3. I just don't really care. I don't care. So I'm gonna leave it in tier 4. Even if it's wrong, I'm making a statement. I'm being real, you know. Like, is this a fine 2-drop to put in your deck? Yes. Is it doing anything? Like, no. It's probably better than a lot of the cards that say exhaust on them in green. So that's something it has going for it. Loxodon Surveyor. 2 and a green, 3/3. Start your engines. At max speed, you can pay 3 and exile this from your graveyard to draw a card. No interest. No interest in this card. Green does not do speed well. This is a 3 mana 3/3 with no additional text. You can discard it. Green doesn't discard cards very well. The only way you're getting this into your graveyard for free is by milling it, so that's free value, but who cares? I think this is the worst of the cycle of these. I think the black one's probably the best because it enables the attacks by itself. I don't know. I don't really like any of these cards actually. Like they all are kind of bad. And I don't know. Maybe they impress me, but for now we're leaving them in the tier 4 dust. Lumbering World Wagon, 2 and a green, star 4 vehicle. Its power is equal to the number of lands you control. Whenever this vehicle enters or attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, and shuffle, and it has crew for 4. But this is just great, right? So 3 mana, ramp, right? Not good. Not a good card by itself. But 3 mana ramp plus get a thing that's in play. Quite good. And it triggers on attacks. And its power is, 4. Like it has 4 power by default on turn 4. It's actually going to have 6 power if you have a land in your hand. So like on turn 3, play this. You go to 4 lands. Then play land 5. Crew this, which is not easy but not impossible. And then attack, and you're at 6 lands. You're attacking with a 6/4, and even if it trades off, you got two lands off of it, and you traded with a creature, and now you have 6 mana. And there you're 2 lands up. That's pretty good. I feel like that's very strong, and I think this is going to be a good green card. March of the World Ooze, 3 green for an enchantment. Creatures you control have base power and toughness 6/6, and are oozes in addition to their other types. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if it's not their turn, you create a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So I think you could play this card in a deck that is very good at making tokens. I think that you should not do that, but I think that you could do it. I think that the second line of text is bad because obviously your opponent has control over that and they're just going to not do it. But if you have a lot of tokens and you need a large thing that like ends the game, this is kind of like Overrun. If you're playing Overrun, this is kind of like that. Not super exciting, but I'm probably not going to get to play it because it's a mythic. So, Migrating Ketradon, 4 green, 6/6 reach. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life, and you can cycle it for 2. This is great. This is just Ravenous Lindworm. Ravenous Lindworm's gotten a glow up. Ravenous Lindworm, very strong. Was very good in Call Time. It's been kind of good every time they've done it. This one's going to be great. It's got cycling. 4 is a lot of life. This one even has a reach. Shores up one of your weaknesses. I expect this to be very strong. So I don't have a lot to say about it. It's probably green's best common, maybe? Might be. It's definitely in contention. Molt Tender. Single green for a 1/1. You can tap it to mill a card, and you can tap it to exile a card from your graveyard. Add 1 mana of any color. So it's a mana elf that's not on turn 2, which is bad. But it's also a 1 drop that can mill you 1 every turn, which is kind of good. if you want that, which this format's not really going to be about doing that, but it's something. Um, yeah, I don't know. This format's not about this. This card doesn't do anything in this format, I don't think. But it just seems like it's not, because the problem is it doesn't ramp you from 1 to 3. Ramping you from 2 to 4 is fine, which is kind of what this does. But it doesn't ramp you from 1 to 3, and that's a lot of the power of having a 1 mana elf. So losing that is pretty bad. Ooze Patrol. 3 and a green for a 2/2. When this creature enters, mill 2 cards, then put a +1/+1 counter on this creature for each artifact and or creature in your graveyard. I should move this up. Is that true? It's just stats. It's just stats. How good is a 4-mana 5/5? Which I could see this being frequently. I could see this frequently being a 4-mana 5/5. It's okay. Sometimes it's bigger than that. Interestingly, it dies to shock before the trigger resolves, so it also dies to lightning. No, actually, this is bad. This is terrible. Nope, actually, it's still bad because it doesn't just enter with the counters; it mills and then enters. So you actually just get blown up by cheap interaction. This is bad. Like, it's just, I think, like, you could imagine a world where it's like, oh, I got a 4-mana 6/6, okay, like, and then your opponent kills it, and that's like, well, I milled some cards, that was nice. But yeah, I don't think this is good. There are a lot of cards that mill in green. There are a lot of them, but you need to have a really high density of things that work with this in your graveyard, and it has to be. And if they're in your graveyard, you're not as likely to draw them, so then your deck is worse, and then you're still losing. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of a lose-lose card. Ovia Automech Artisan. 3 and a green for a 1/2. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample. You can pay 1 green and tap it and put a creature or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put an artifact onto the battlefield, this way put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So 4-mana 1/2 with no protection ability, very bad. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample. It does something. If you untap, it is actually good, right? So these cards are bad, right? I've rated it as bad because they died at interaction. This one is a little bit better than unplayable because when it actually works, you do get to put 2 extra counters on your creatures. You get to play them for 1 mana. Like, I think this is better than the Beastie card from Duskmourn. Like, in Duskmourn, the Rescue Beastie, the 4-mana 4/3, that if it was tapped in your second main phase, you get to do this. There was not a lot of ways to enable this. This enables itself, at least, and it's just like, I hope you don't have a removal spell. That's kind of it. If they do have a removal spell, you instantly lose the game. Or, I mean, even if they just have good attack, like, you just sometimes just die. Playing a 4-mana 1/2. But when it works, it's going to be sweet. Basically, when it works, it's going to be cool and fun and all that, and it's not going to work that often. Plow Through, single green sorcery. Choose 1, target creature fights target creature an opponent controls, target creature you control, fights target creature an opponent controls, or destroy target vehicle. Yeah, this is great. This is going to be great interaction for green. Vehicles are not going to be safe. They're just not going to be safe at all. And this is going to be a large reason why. Yep. Also, having the ability to fight just attached to random stuff tends to be pretty good. Point the Way. Single green for an enchantment. Start your engines. You can pay 3 and a green to sacrifice this enchantment. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is your speed. Put those cards onto the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. Purely a ramp card. Starting your engines in green. Not that green doesn't do engines well, which makes me think it sucks. But yeah, this seems just completely without application in this format. Pothole Mole. 2 and a green, 2/3. When this creature enters, mill 3 cards, then you may return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a functional reprint of the card from Midnight Hunt, one of my favorite cards ever in Limited. I forget what it's called, but it's the 2/3 that has this exact same ability. This card is going to be a lot worse than that card because there's no flashback in this set. And the one that was in OTJ we saw just kind of being okay. This card's going to be just okay as well. But it'll, you're going to play this frequently. I would be really surprised if you're not playing it in every single one of your green decks. It's just, it's not busted or anything. It's not at its peak anymore. Regal Imperiosaur. 1 green for a 5/4. Other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1. There are some dinosaurs around. This is large, but I put it in tier 2. And you might be saying, wow, you put a 3-mana 5/4 in tier 2. I did do that. Man, it sure costs double green, though. It sure does. It sure costs 2 green pips of mana. When you play this on turn 3, it's going to be great. There's so much good removal. I can't stress enough how much good removal there is in red and black that just completely just says, okay, this card's here. I killed it. It has done nothing, and now it is dead. But when it's on turn 3, it's great. It's huge. It attacks for 5. 5 is that's a quarter of your opponent's health. That's a big number. It's a good card. I'm not saying it's not a good card. I'm just looking at the mana cost and saying my expectations are limited. Rise from the Wreck. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Return up to 1 target creature card, mount card, up to 1 target vehicle card, and up to 1 target creature card with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, this is a lot of value, right? So you get to... Really, you're getting 3 mana draw 3. The problem is, it's so late into the game. This card is powerful. I'm not saying it's not powerful. There will be decks where I can see myself playing this card. The reason it's in tier 4 is I'm hoping to get it, late in the pack. I'm not trying to take this and build my deck around it. I'm building a green deck and saying, okay, I've built my green deck, and now that I've built my green deck, I can maybe play this card that's going to come to me late. That's kind of how I see this card, and it's not a powerful card when it works. It needs a lot of help. I don't think you want to be trying to do this. I think you want to kind of have this work. Like, you can be like, okay, well, I have this deck here. I'm in pack 2, and okay, it's pick 6, and I'm looking at this card, and I'm like, oh, okay, I have a good mix of this. I have a couple of cycling vehicles. I have 3 mounts. Oh, it's like, okay, all right, okay, and then you kind of move on, right? That's kind of the spot that I could see taking this, and to me, that's not going to receive a high rating. Run Over. 1 and a green instant. The spell costs wellness to cast if it targets a mount or vehicle you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. Very simple bite spell. Good. We haven't ever actually seen this be 1 mana. We haven't done an instant speed 1 mana bite spell before, so I'm interested to see how it plays out. It may end up being better than this rating a little bit. It might be green's best common. I think it's competing with the big cycling guy. And the mole, but yeah, it's probably not the mole. But yeah, I mean, it's good removal. You're gonna play it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Silken Strength. 1 and a green enchantment aura with flash. Enchant target creature or vehicle. When this aura enters, untap enchanted permanent. Enchanted permanent gets +1/+2 and has reach. I'm actually I could move this up. Actually, I really could. The problem is the blowout potential, and again, I've been waxing poetically about how much good removal there is in this set, and this card gets super owned by all the good removal, and all that. Really, I think the best use for this is attack with a vehicle, leave up the 2 mana. Opponent attacks you, put this on the vehicle, untap the vehicle, crew the vehicle, block. That, I think, is the best way to use this card. It limits your blowouts a little bit. That's the reason it's designed like this, so that you can resolve it before combat. But I I'm skeptical. I must say I'm skeptical. And yeah, that's all I got on this one. Stampeding Scurryfoot, single green for a 1/1 mouse with exhaust for 3 and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and create a 3/3 green elephant creature token. This is an exhaust ability I quite like. You know, on turn 4, upgrade your 1-drop and make a 3/3. That's not a reasonable play. Actually, I'm gonna upgrade this. I'm upgrading it. It's getting upgraded. It's just quite nice to be able to play this and be like, yeah, I mean, on 1, I can just block if I have to. You know, my opponent's going to get their speed out of control. I can just block. And turn 4, don't have a 4-drop. Just do this and make a 3/3 and make this a little bigger. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. Terran World Tyrant. 2 green for a 9/7. So it's 5 mana for a 9/7. That's really big. I must say that's really big. It does dodge some removal. Like there's a couple of deal 6s, so it does dodge some removal. There's a lot of things that give trample, but it's really bad. The casting cost is too much. I don't know. I just don't. Why would they? Why? I don't know. Why would you do this? I don't understand why you would do this. They keep trying to do this. They keep being like, what if we put an even larger vanilla creature in the format? And it's like, I don't think you actually want this, because if it's ever actually good, it's just not. The format just sucks. Like you could make this a 27, and it'd be like, okay, well, it's good because it just ends the game if it ever gets through. But like, I'm not even sure it would be good if it was like, I don't know how much stats this needs to be good. I don't think this is enough though. Maybe it is. Maybe this is finally we've reached the threshold where just stats can be good enough. I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. Thunderous Velocipede. 1 green for a 5/5 vehicle with trample. Each other vehicle you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if its mana value is 4 or less. Otherwise, it enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it, and it has crew 3. So the reason this is in tier 2 and not tier 1 is, of course, the mana cost of green, and also the fact that it doesn't really... It just kind of sits there. You know, the first turn you play it, there's a lot of artifact interaction, so you can just die very easily to that and just get nothing. But it's big. It's very big when it actually gets to attack. And you're going to take this and probably put it in your deck and, yeah, be pretty happy with it. I don't know. It's going to be good. Veloheart Bike. 2 into green, 4/2 vehicle with crew 2. When this vehicle enters, you gain 2 life, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. This is quite nice. This is a very useful vehicle. The fact that it gains you 2 life is really huge here. Like it's the main reason I like this card, actually. The fact that it can tap for the mana immediately is nice. It's kind of like a cool mana rock. It's kind of a cool, like, I don't know, put this in your cube or whatever. I know we have the Cultivator Caravan. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I kind of like this. I don't know. Yeah, I like this one. It's a cool little spin on that, and it is a good card. I think it's going to be solid, and you're going to see it a lot. Venom Sac Lagak. 1 on a green for a 2/1 with Death Touch. When this attacks while saddled, it gets +0/+3 until end of turn, and it has saddle for 2. 2/1 Death Touch, not the best. Obviously, you can saddle it, but like, you're committing 2 creatures to attack with this, and then you're getting in for your reward is I got in for 2 damage. Wow, amazing. Yeah, this is not exciting. 2 mana 2/1 Death Touch is kind of okay by itself. It's not good, but like it's not a disaster because at least it trades with all their stuff. So like it can trade. That's kind of it. That's what this is. This is threatening to trade with your opponent's thing 1-for-1 and not be a liability. This may be like, this is in the running for worst saddle ability of all time. It's bad. It's down there. And the final green card is Web Strike Elite. Green for a 3/3 with reach. It has cycling for X green. When you cycle this card, destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment with mana value X. Cycling ability is really good. Destroy an artifact, draw a card. It actually is easier to use than maybe it looks. Because yes, you have to pay, like, let's say they have a 3 mana artifact. Yeah, you have to pay 5 mana, but you're paying 5 mana, destroy your opponent's thing, draw a card. That's pretty good. 2 mana 3/3 reach is okay. It's hard to cast. Which I don't like, as I've talked about many times throughout this particular set review. Because it's important to me. Because it's what's important to me. Do what's important to you in the world, you know? That's my inspirational message for today. But yeah, this card is fine. It's good. It's a good card, but I don't think it's busted. And as a result, I've put it in tier 2. And that's it. That's it for the green cards. There is additional Aetherdrift set review content available on the channel. Feel free to go check that out. And I will see you next time.